community forum this evening. We are live streaming through ICRC. We're happy to have everyone, certainly those that are here, but also those that are watching live. We do have SHP, our architects, and Conger, our construction management team here. They're going to give us an update. We'll have an opportunity to get some input from you, and then also some Q&A as well, right? So I'm going to turn the mic over to Charlie from SHP.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming out. We're going to do another quick introduction of the team here. We're going to go over the schedule, and then I will hand the mic to Greg, and he will share some diagrams, some images, and then we're going to go through next steps. And then at the end, we got a little survey that we can get some feedback from you guys. So real quick, just a reminder that our team, which is the core team is what we refer to it. It has the co-owners at the top, which is Milford Board of Education, who we're technically under contract with, and the State of Ohio, OFCC, the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. They are our 50-50 partner in the project on decisions throughout the process. SHP is in this bottom corner, and we hold the contract for design, site design, technology design, interior design, and everything in between we will handle. Today I've got Greg Lewis as a design leader with SHP, Jenny Gallo, an interior designer, and Jordan Hibner, also an interior designer. So, Conger is the construction management at risk. Bob Riggs is here, and he can share a couple of things about Conger before I jump back in.
Again, my name is Bob Riggs. I'm the pre-construction manager at Conger. I've met most people in here already. We're the ones to make sure that this project comes in on time and under budget. So everything that's happening now is up front. We're involved as well from a constructability and cost management perspective, and we work directly with SHP and Milford to make sure that everything that's being done now works and comes in under budget in the end. So that's our main goal moving forward. Appreciate it.
Right. So our design team process at this point is where we are working with a lot of folks. You can ask Mr. Jeff Johnson about the quantity of meetings that we're having with him and the people he works with. You can see at the top of this diagram the co-owners again, and then the core team. We met earlier this week. It's a monthly check-in. We monitor scope, schedule, and budget. State folks from Columbus come down, and also they're a part of the core team. The building design team has your principal, has some other assistant principals. We've met with teachers, we've met with staff, and we've really solicited a lot of great feedback from those teams. We're here tonight really talking about with the community and getting feedback from the folks here, but we are also having a lot of other variety of meetings, special education, food service, PE and sports, the media center, performing arts, the list goes on. So we're entering this period where we're having a lot of these detailed meetings. I believe we're having a technology meeting, kitchen meetings, where we're really going to focus on those various areas. So our process is driven by the feedback we get, and so we want to make sure that folks are engaged and they're providing responses to the things that we're talking about, and that will be reflected in the new design. Schedule is very critical. We had the programming phase in the spring where we were looking at the quantity and then of spaces and the size of a lot of spaces. Last time I was here, I believe in June, we shared that we took tours and we got to see a lot of other built works of similar grades. And then we've entered the schematic design phase, and that's really where we are today. And you'll see floor plans and some site layouts for the schematic design phase. You can see the red dashed line there, and it says 8/3/22, which is that today? It was yesterday. Sorry, I put that on there yesterday. We're not far from our deliverable. Our deliverable is September 9th. We handed over to Conger, and so this is one of those things where once we get rolling, we're moving. So. We will then enter kind of a 4-week period where Conger and SHP will estimate the job. The goal is to be on budget. If we're over, we'll find areas that we need to reduce. And frequently we've not been on, there's not extra money, so it's just the economy is really tough right now in our market. So but we have a lot of ideas of things to do to maintain the budget though. We will then enter DD phase, the CD phase, and we'll go all the way into early 23, where we will then complete the documents, and a year from now, work will be happening on this new building. We've planned construction to be approximately 27 months. This is a really big building, and it will take over 2 years to build it. And so that will be an exciting time because folks will start seeing things come out of the ground. And then in 3 years from now, August of 2025, we will have the move in. So we'll look forward to that, and it'll be here in a blink of an eye. We all know it. So with that, I'm going to hand it to Greg, and then at the end we will have a series of questions, opportunities to provide questions and feedback. So Greg, Lewis.
Thanks, Charlie. So when we were here a couple months ago, we talked a little bit about our process, our design process, and kind of getting into some of the initial diagrams. Because the academic spaces for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders take up about half of the building, we start there typically with trying to make sure that we have the right arrangement of spaces and allocations. In terms of this diagram that we landed on at the end of our previous presentation, you can see there's kind of 1, 2, 3, and 4 that surround up in the corners there. Each of those is a pod for the students. So we've got about 25 to 30 students per classroom, so about 100 to 120 students per pod, 4 pods per grade level. You can kind of do the math. My mom was a math teacher. I love math. In addition to having the standard classrooms for the pods, we've got some extended learning areas, we've got restrooms, we've got project labs. We're actually looking at incorporating the art rooms for each of the grade levels in the pods themselves. So that's been kind of distributed, and you'll see those in some of the updated diagrams. But this is kind of our starting point. And you can see also, does this work? Yes. We've got some special education resource rooms that we distribute into all of the academic areas. Those can be used both for special education as well as breakout spaces for students who are having kind of one-on-one or small group activities with teachers. We've got mechanical rooms and restrooms for the students so they don't have to go outside of their classroom pods or too far from their pods to get access to those services. So as this has evolved, we kind of focused on trying to get things in their right size. We've got some science labs located, 1 per pod, so it's really kind of a team teaching model. So we've got interdisciplinary teachers, students kind of working all in their pods. We've kind of honed this through the process of design. And so you can see this is kind of where we're at right now, and I'll toggle back and forth to see how the diagrams have evolved. But you can see that we maintain the basic organization, the kind of square shape. As you zoom in on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floors, we can see we've got the 4 blue classrooms there, including a science room that's on each of the corners. And our science rooms are standard sizes for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all the way up. It makes it really easy to stack. It makes it really flexible in the event that we want to move the 6th grade from the 3rd floor down to the 1st floor in the future. We've got the flexibility for that future ability for them to grow. Some of the things that we've done in terms of anticipating potential growth in the district is enlarge the resource rooms. Those were previously programmed at like about 600 square feet. That's an OFCC standard. We've enlarged those so that they're a standard size classroom, and that will allow, if we have a bubble in terms of the student population when they come up through elementary school, that if they come in and we exceed that 120 student per pod group, that we can have that additional classroom that we can dedicate for an extra large class, and those students will be able to move through 6th, 7th, and 8th consistently all through here. So we've designed some things like that will allow the building to be a little bit more future-proof, that it will kind of grow with the students and the student body as they grow. Because of the way that we've organized these with the pods, we're trying to embrace this teacher collaboration area. So we're working such that the teachers will have their classrooms. That's something that's going to kind of be evolving as we go through the design development process. But we also want to make sure that we have a teacher collaboration space, a space for the teachers that they can kind of get outside their classroom and work together, especially as we think about this teaming model and kind of team teaching and project learning. you can see from the previous one that the ELAs, these kind of green spaces here that are on the corners, are still outside of the classrooms. So each pod will have an extended learning area so students can kind of have that breakout space. I see a lot of people who are probably similar age to me. So we used to kind of break out into the hallways. You know, we had like an 8-foot hallway, and then we had lockers, and there's book bags stacked there. So we really only had about 6 feet of hallway, and then students doing projects. So then you end up with about 2 feet of hallway, and people can't really move through there. So this becomes that kind of space that is, those students can go out and they can do the projects. We'll have different types of seating out there, more comfortable seating, maybe little booths or something that students can do projects around, and they can collaborate with each other in this open space. And because of its adjacency to this courtyard that's in the middle, they'll have great daylighting in that space. So the classrooms all around the perimeter will all have great daylighting. These ELAs, which sometimes are, you know, in between the classrooms, if you look at kind of schools that were designed maybe 10, 15 years ago, the extended learning areas didn't necessarily have great daylight. So this is designed intentionally so that all of our academic spaces have great daylight. And that's something that we really strive towards, because we know that having that daylight in spaces really makes for a better, more comfortable student experience. We talked about the art rooms. So we've got the purple art rooms here on each grade level. So those will be kind of grade level specific, but have similar resources on every grade level. And then we've got these project labs, which are kind of more flexible, kind of STEM labs for the 7th and 8th graders. And then because programmatically we don't have a project lab for the 6th graders, we do have their kind of 6th grade general music room located there. So there are kind of grade level specific things, but these spaces are basically the same size. They'll have roughly the same amenities. So if some things need to move in the future, there's that ability for them to flex. This is how the academic areas fit within the overall floor plan. So you can see that we've got the academic areas organized on one side with these connectors that connect to the common spaces on the first and the second floor. On the second floor, we've got our elective spaces. So these are all of our general education classrooms: math, science, social studies, history, language. All of these spaces are more of our electives. So we'll have our foreign language, robotics, other spaces kind of located in here. So these will be for all 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So they'll have the flexibility to go there. And these located on the second floor means that whether they're coming from the upper floor where the 6th grade is or the lower floor, they really only have to go to one floor to get to those electives. So it's pretty convenient and easily accessible for everybody. The green spaces that are located in these corners are kind of our media center spaces. So those will be more kind of open spaces for students to do research, collaboration, projects, access to book resources, digital resources, anything that they need will be in the kind of media center spaces at the top. And there's some stairs that will connect down into these, into our dining space that's right in the center here. And so those will be kind of easily connected. So the students will have a lot of flexibility to go from the lower level where the dining is, even if they're not dining in the middle of the day, they'll have access to kind of this whole large open space. On the first floor, we've got our academy spaces. So these are the students that are coming from the high school that we've got currently in the existing junior high. Those students will have a kind of a dedicated space, and it's located here on the front of the building, so the students have their own separate entrance. So we don't have to have those high schoolers coming into the middle school. They'll have their own dedicated entrance to get into their academy classrooms. The main entrance here is right in the middle, and we've got our administration and clinic and other kind of student support spaces, guidance offices located in these green spaces. Mechanical and service spaces are in the gray here. Those will be kind of the kitchen services. So students coming from the academics will come through here, go into the serving area, get their food, and come out and dine in the center space there. And even though this is centrally located and surrounded by spaces on 4 sides, we do have a little small dining courtyard here that will be a space where students and teachers can go potentially eat outside when the weather's nice, but it also brings in some nice daylight from this corner of this corner of the building, and we'll have some clear story windows above this space, which is kind of a community room slash staff dining space. So it's really kind of a flexible space that's adjacent to this. We've got some special ed spaces here behind the community dining, so they're adjacent on the first floor, easily accessed from the outside if students need to have direct access from the outside. And then the orange spaces up here are some of our music rooms, the larger band room, and then a practice, what do we call that? It's ensemble room, thank you. Yes, with the vocal music room up on the second floor. That's up there. And then finally, the yellow spaces up here are kind of our large gym and then our auxiliary gym with support spaces, including locker rooms and storage and coaches' offices between. One of the things that we talked about at our last community presentation was this idea of security. We know that it's a big deal, and that's something that we think about throughout our entire design process. So when we think about security, we want to think about it at multiple levels, at different stages, so that we have the security from the front door all the way to the individual classrooms. Something that we've been talking about with the district, but we haven't necessarily made decisions on, is having key card access for every classroom, for every room in the space, so that teachers will have access to certain rooms and they'll be able to kind of key into those rooms. All of our exterior entrances around on the first floor will have card access, and only certain entrances will be open during the day for either students coming and going at the beginning and the end of the school day, or the main entrance will have kind of a secure access and a secure vestibule, so people coming to the building won't be able to get in around the building except for that main entrance, and then they'll have to be buzzed in and secured through the main office reception. Once from there, they'll be able to get into this building, and then in the event of a breach or a security threat, we have the ability to close down the academic area completely, kind of shut that off from the rest of the space. So if there's a breach at the front door, we can close down and protect all the students in the academic areas. And then what we're looking at right now, as we're going through our schematic design process, is having some even more kind of areas that we can close down and lock off within here. So we've got these kind of 4 quadrants, the 4 pods within the academic areas. So having some places where we can close and lock those down. And then finally having the ability to kind of close and lock down and have a secure area for each classroom that has limited visibility into the classroom. So that's something that we think about in stages, in kind of sequence, all the way from the front entrance down into the individual classrooms, with the ultimate goal of kind of making sure our students are safe and secure. Does that make sense? Okay. So as we kind of zoom in, we can see a little bit more detail here. These are still just diagrams. We have a whole kind of production model that has all of our doors and windows and everything starting to go into it. You can see kind of a little preview here of kind of that model relative to the existing campus, and these are just kind of rough extruded blocks for the existing high school, the existing junior high. So this is really mostly just to give a sense of scale. As Charlie mentioned, this is a big building. It's going to take more than 2 years to build. So at a little over 200,000 square feet, it's a big building, but we've designed it in such a way that it's going to be off of the main street, kind of tucked back in. So we'll have kind of access to parking, and our play fields, our stadium is right behind here. We're going to have some parking, existing parking here that we're going to maintain. Some practice fields will go in place of where the existing junior high is once that's abated and demoed. In Charlie's schedule that you saw previously, it starts in 2025 and will go for about a year before this building is abated and demoed and kind of replaced with play fields and parking. So this gives you a little bit of an overview of that. As we kind of zoom in, you can start to see that we're looking at fenestration patterns, windows, because of the construction conditions that we're dealing with right now with budget concerns, and because we want to be, we want to honor the budget that we've set for us. We're being very mindful about how big the building is, so we're trying to make sure that we can kind of keep things as tight as possible. We're trying to make sure the building is very efficient, both to move through as well as to construct. So you see a lot of kind of repetition in some of these window patterns. It's still going to be exciting, I promise. That's my job. And all of our jobs is to kind of make it exciting, make it a great place for the students to come and learn in every day, including the summer. That's important. But we're trying to be very mindful of the budget and the schedule and the ability to construct this in a reasonable time and manner. From the ground level, you can see the 3-story academic wing here on the right, the the main entrance with our admin, the academy, and the electives above there, and then finally the taller volume on the left with the gymnasium. We'll still have some daylight in there to get some daylight into those gym spaces. And then one thing that we're kind of working through right now in our site design process is the relationship of the new middle school to the future field house. This is something that we're kind of talking through and how we can phase that. Is there anything you want to say specifically about this, Charlie?
Just looking at the connections and making sure that operationally that they function. I think the thing we'll point out is our site plan is tight, and so we want to make sure that we're doing it in an efficient manner for operations and building and all.
Yeah, we're going to be building this whole thing on those 3 practice fields that are adjacent to the stadium right now. So we have a kind of very limited footprint. Even beyond that, we want to make sure that we're preserving some outdoor space for education, for parking, for play fields, all of that. So it's something that we're thinking about, not just kind of what's happening inside the building, but what's happening around the building as well. So this will be kind of a service drive area. We'll have our service entrance here for deliveries, both food deliveries and mechanical service deliveries. Most of the people coming to the stadium will be coming from the east here where the parking is, and they'll have concessions and restrooms up here before they go into the stadium up to the north. The potential field house, the 3 additional gymnasiums here is something that's kind of part of a future plan. We're just kind of making sure that we're mindful of that as we go through this master planning process and making sure that we leave room for that in the eventuality we get to there sometime in the future. So from a site plan standpoint, we reviewed this last time, but I can go over it fairly quickly. The existing site with the existing campus with the existing construction site is where the 3 play fields are right now, just south. So north is to the right, but just south of the existing stadium. Wolf Pen Pleasant Hill Road is here to the east, so we'll still have our access off of here. This is the existing drive. And then we've got access from 131 to the south to get to Eagles Way. As we kind of look at this and as we've talked about this overall campus design and master plan with the district, one of the things we've talked about is rerouting Eagles Way to the east of the current high school, maybe putting in a roundabout or some sort of connection here so that most of our traffic will then come to the east around and then connecting in and figuring out kind of where's the ideal connection for this. When we look at it, kind of the ultimate master plan, we thought about maybe bringing this over and connecting across from this existing street here, but that creates some inefficiencies in terms of this space utilization and how we can use that. And also trying to build this road at the same time that we're abating and demoing the existing junior high might prolong that process. And we don't want to kind of prolong, because once this gets built, we want to make sure that we can have an efficient transition to the future. So we're still looking at, with our civil engineers, at how this will come down, whether it kind of stays in its existing location. It might move a little bit south towards the baseball and softball fields, but this is kind of still in flux. We just want to make sure that it functions effectively for the overall master plan. But you can see the new middle school here on the site will be built adjacent to the stadium. This is kind of the new stands and press box, but we have what this diagram does not show is that field house that was here that will be just to the right of this. So we've changed the shape and proportions of this kind of conceptual middle school here. We've shifted a little bit to the south to make room for that future field house, but we'll still have our main drop-off here for the new middle school. We'll still have the buses that will serve both the high school and the middle school that will kind of come down in between. We'll still maintain and maybe even grow some parking here to the east, so they'll have access to that. And then as we kind of look at the overall master plan, we might try to put in some additional play fields because we know things are kind of getting moved around, and so that's all part of kind of what we're looking at this kind of 30,000-foot level.
All right, so what's next? We've got some detailed technology meetings where our technology designers will talk with your basic CIO type folks and talk a lot about Wi-Fi, network, teacher technology, phones, PA systems, emergency call buttons, all the things associated with a new school. It's a robust agenda. Security meetings, we will be having detailed security meetings once we have a site plan, once we have a floor plan to look at. We will involve Miami Township Police Department, fire departments, district security folks or school resource officers, administration. It will be a robust group, and we take it serious. And in every single job, every single project when things are happening, we try to learn from those and apply the knowledge we have. So Greg talked about the barriers and containment. That's one big strategy. A building of this size, camera-wise, will have probably 200 cameras in it and throughout it, inside and outside. So there's a lot of active and passive measures that'll be incorporated, and we'll know more and we'll share more as we can. Site design meetings, as Greg mentioned, we're working with the civil engineer, but we want to start folding in your transportation folks, even your band instructor to make sure there's practice space. All the folks that are living on the site, we'll get a chance to chime in and see some of the decisions that are being made. Eagles Way, the fields, utilities, stormwater, electric. There's so many things associated with the site that becomes very critical to your operations. We will start to have department meetings, and Jenny Gallo can share here some of the details of that here in a second. Kitchen design meetings, PE folks, the list goes on. Special ed, music, administrative, custodians. We'll meet with teachers. And so we have a very in-depth plan of making sure that folks are seeing the decisions that are being made, but then also reciprocating and giving feedback. And then finally, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We're all comfortable in this building today because it has functioning air conditioning. And that's the first thing that when it doesn't function, that's the first complaint we get. So we want to make sure that a lot of those decisions are being made wisely and are being reviewed and properly designed.
So the department meetings really become the foundation of how we move forward in design development. We're having a ton of meetings now talking about the really big picture. Jordan and I are going to get into the itty-bitty details of this building. So we will have hour-long meetings with every single user group in this building. We will meet and just talk about science rooms for an hour plus. We will meet with them as many times as we need to get it right. And to help us, we've been utilizing Google surveys and sending out initial staff feedback surveys. So I don't want to make assumptions, and it's not worth our time to come in and say, look at this great science room, and then have them say, ooh, that's not how we teach at all. So we use surveys to gather initial data from the users so that we're bringing meaningful information back to you guys. We will then, at the meetings, be able to share what classroom spaces look like, both from a plan perspective, but also use our software to show how things look in 3D. This is a technology that we didn't have when, let's say, Boyd and Seipelt were under construction and design. So we're able to very quickly show people what things look like in 3D, which leads to greater feedback and understanding. I think people a lot of times look at floor plans and nod along, yeah, okay, I get it, because they don't want to say, I don't have a clue what you're showing me. So being able to show it in 3D, again, just really make sure that we're getting the right information and that people understand what the space is going to be like. We then tend to use surveys again as a double check. So again, we'll have as many meetings as we need face-to-face, and then typically we'll send out a final survey to the user group saying, give us a thumbs up, are we good to go? So again, it's not just a one and done thing. We will continue to meet with people and get feedback and make sure that the design we're putting out is going to be unique and custom and work for how you guys teach here in Milford. So it's a lot of meetings, but they're really great.
And Jenny didn't want to brag, but the surveys came. It's a spring 2020 silver lining. Remember spring 2020? We still had a job as designers, and we were supposed to meet with educators. Well, guess what? We weren't allowed. It was all remote. So we came up with the surveys, and it was a great, great process. So we got better feedback. So we haven't stopped. We've continued to use it, and we're going to share that here. So final, what's next, and then we'll get into our own survey of this group, is we turned a series of drawings over on September 9th. It'll probably be 60, 70 pages of drawings, site drawings, interiors, architectural, roof drawings, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, technology, structural, If there's not a drawing, we provide narratives, we describe it. And then Conger will then take that and put a price to it, what they see it would cost. The good thing is they're pricing a school building right now as we speak. So it's good. They're going to have really real numbers for August of 22, and we're going to price this in September of 22. So it'll be budgetary numbers, yeah. That's the other comment, yeah. So we're going to have a real good apples to apples comparison of the market. We will do these independently, and then we will collaborate and compare and contrast, see if, well, you guys had 300 doors and we had 400, where's the gap? And we want to align to make sure that it's right. So when we present an estimate to the board, it's true and it's best to our ability. We will also give it to a third party called a commissioning agent. It's a company called Four Seasons. They're hired by the district, and they will review things for envelope and mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Those tend to be the problematic issues within schools in Ohio, and they want to make sure that it's buildable and it's operatable. It can operate as intended. And then also building envelope to make sure that what we come up with the patterns of bricks and windows and the systems that we design, that it won't leak and that it's a good use of taxpayer dollars. So with that was about 30 minutes of a lot of content. If you could get a phone out and scan this, I've got, I believe, 7 quick questions. So I made it big enough so I think the guys in the back can see the QR code. Very good. I'm getting thumbs up. All right. I did it yesterday, and there was like a little cookie you had to accept. I'm still waiting for those Oreos to be delivered to my office. All right. I'm only seeing one phone in the air, and I see the son helping Dad, so it's all good. We'll get you in. Yeah. All right. And if anybody is actually watching live on ICRC, it's pollev.com/SHP surveys. SHP surveys with an S at the end. All right. I think everyone's in. Okay. pollev, one word, .com/ it's a test question. Yeah, we've got. Are you in, sir, in the back? Okay, all right. And the first question really is, what is your favorite pizza topping? So this is a test: cheese, pepperoni, mushrooms, pineapple. So there's no anchovy fans here in the crowd. So pepperoni remains the champion. So all right, it looks like we're understanding it. On my phone, I had to scroll up a little bit to see all the answers, but all right. So here's a real question. What best describes your role in the Milford Exempted Village School District? Parents with kids in the school, staff, resident with no kids in the school, you're a student, business, or maybe a government leader. So looks like we got a handful of staff here and parents. One student and one resident without kids, so there's our donut. All right. How long have you lived here? And there might be staff members that say, I don't live here, that's why you got that. So we got some 20 seasoned veterans. All right, so roughly 40% answering, or it's probably the previous slide, that's the teachers. Okay, what words come to mind when you think of the new Milford Middle School? This will build a word cloud. So if you see words up there and you want to repeat them, feel free to type it in. And the words that get the most votes grow. It looks like you can answer multiple times. I think we kept that open. So, all right, safe is rising. Safe, awesome. It's a needed and flexible. And a comment that when Greg was talking about containment and barriers, that's the latest and greatest, hardening a facility. That's the latest trend in school security. The challenge is it goes against building code. Building code wants to get you out. So today's building code in Ohio is from 2017. It's really an evolution since the 80s. It hasn't really evolved to contain and keep people in. So it's a tricky endeavor. Okay, so I see, again, safe, it's needed, as in you guys need this, you've wanted it for years. A flexible, awesome space, there you go. So inclusive, inviting, spacious, adequate, collaborative, so great words, so awesome. We'll keep this. I like the design direction of the new Milford Middle School. Yes, no, or I wanted to type maybe so, but. Okay, so we're 93 is a passing grade, so I think with the maybes might just need more information, which is understandable at this stage, so. All right. I feel informed about the new middle school design and construction process, and this is kind of a social media one where I think you can answer and like put thumbs up and thumbs down. Yeah. There we go. Somebody figured out the emoji. I guarantee that was a teacher. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we just want to make sure, again, that we're putting out the right information, that we're having these forums, and other, you're getting this information in multiple formats if you need. So. Yes.
I had to go back to Facebook to see exactly when your meeting was.
Okay.
I just didn't know if people that aren't on Facebook are getting.
Sure. So does someone from the district want to respond? The question is, Facebook has this, but what other methods are you guys advertising these forums?
If you're a parent of a junior high student, it was in my, I did put it in my newsletter, so it was in that if you get my newsletter. I sent one on Tuesday morning, this past Tuesday. Oh, okay, there you go.
So it'll also be in the upcoming district newsletters as those start again for the year, and you'll see it as it progresses.
Okay. What other questions do you have about our presentation today? Okay. We can do it verbally, or we can do it, if you want to be anonymous, you can type it in, so
Oh, okay.
let's do a verbal.
I have two questions. We'll start with the security. So when we looked at the entry to the new building, it seems like the cafeteria and the eating space is right at the front door. So what barriers are between outside and where the kids are eating?
Okay. I won't repeat it because you talked on the mic.
I don't think that's a question we can really answer until we hear from Chief Mills,
Yeah.
his team. So there's a limited amount of things that we really want to talk about in terms of security. So
Yeah,
it's not out to the open.
Correct. My answer is we don't know right now. There will be things incorporated. So we just don't know. We're in bubble diagram mode here, and as I mentioned, we have not had these in-depth security meetings with the professionals who will be operating the building.
But I'm just asking, are you thinking it's glass door to open space, or like Boyd where it's vestibule, hallway, and then there's a solid
Yes.
door?
To answer that,
That's what I'm asking.
yeah, all new schools in the state of Ohio have this secured entry sequence where you're in a vestibule and you need to be buzzed in. You generally have to walk in to greet a human and sign in and do Raptor or computer checkup, and then you can go into the school building. So it would be some type of sequence, but we need to figure those out. So
sorry. The other question I had was just the sixth grade floor. What is the thought process with putting a music room next to an academic room? I'm thinking sixth grade recorders, I'm thinking drums, I'm thinking sticks pounding.
Yeah.
So what does that look like next to a classroom?
So it is next to a kind of that flexible classroom zone. It's not next to a dedicated classroom when Greg was talking about the overflow. And also, we have music rooms all the time next to classrooms where we will, there's certain sound transmission coefficients that we have to make sure we abide by. So we'll do double and quadruple layers of drywall insulation, ways where you put studs, acoustic connection for HVAC. Believe it or not, you even caulk the bottom with acoustic caulk. So there are things that we do that we incorporate to reduce sound. So we have, it's not really actually music to classroom. We get it more with music to music rooms because they're both performing at the same time and they don't want to hear each other. And so that's where we utilize a lot of those strategies. Any other in-person questions? Yes.
I was wondering, what kind of ADA features are being incorporated into the building?
Good question. We have to be fully ADA compliant, and so the building will have all aspects of ADA, from doors to push buttons for doors to open up, thresholds if folks are coming in with crutches or in a wheelchair, elevators, toilet rooms that are ADA compliant, sinks, counters. We actually just had a job where we were submitting for permit, and we were not allowed to put an ADA a USB outlet where ADA students could not access. So it is very universal, and it's common within our design to be able to accommodate that and satisfy all ADA requirements. Sidewalks, parking stalls, everywhere in between.
And then my other question was, what kind of green space features are being looked at?
So we're, as we mentioned, at the early phases of the site design. So as far as green space, you know, we've got the courtyards. We're still looking at, after we get sidewalks and parking lots and drop-offs laid out, we will figure out what green areas and pockets and outdoor space we can provide. We will have a whole layer of bringing in a landscape architect to look at species of trees and all those types of things. And oftentimes we work with science teachers to make sure we've got a buckeye and an oak and a poplar and a linden and so on for leaves and colors that trees provide. All right, no more in person, so let's try to tackle some of these, and Jenny and Greg, I might need you guys on some of these. So I'm gonna go to the bottom here. Student entry seems small for 3 grades, and the answer right now is, as Greg mentioned, we have another drawing that we're working on. It's not fully baked, where you can see doors, and it gives you a scale, an idea of widths. So the building itself will be sized to accommodate the loads that it will have. We actually have to provide 0.2 inches per user of door space to get people out appropriately. So it will all be done and calculated to make sure the widths are correct. Other comments?
In addition to the main entrance, we will have a space between, if we look at the plan, where the administration is and where the academic wing is. There's kind of an outdoor area that will lead to the corridor that connects the academics to the main area. That will be open likely for the students at the beginning. It's an operational thing, so we have to kind of figure out what that works logistically. But it is an additional place for students to be able to come in and exit the building at the beginning and end of the day. It's something that will be locked down during the day, so students can egress there safely in the event of an emergency, but they won't be able to get back in without going through the main entrance. So we will have multiple areas for students to get in.
Next one is plans to continue updates, and it is our goal, it's our commitment to continue to offer forums for updates. So we'll continue to do these throughout the design process. I know we're recording them, we're streaming them, and we will do everything we can to continue to provide updates as we go on. So our goal is maybe about monthly or every 8 weeks, depending on the relevant new information that can be shared. But as the information is coming out, we want to share it with the community. Yep. Yeah. Conger will come in and actually present, construction logistics plans. How are you going to get steel onto this campus when you also have thousands of kids? So looking at some of those logistics for deliveries and cohabitation of all these operations is critical. What type of glass will be used? Is there any type of security glass is the question. So there is typical glass that we will use. It's dual glazed or triple glazed glass for windows, and it's a commercial glazing. Lower windows have tempered glass, so if I were to kick this window open, because it's so low by code, it would turn into a million little pieces. It's safer. I think the bigger question that whoever's asking this question is it if there was to be something thrown or fired at a window. Regular glazing can't take that. It would shatter, it would break, and you could get in through it. It's very common on a lot of our jobs to put coatings on first floor windows or areas of entry. 3M Post-it notes, makes a film that is utilized on a lot of school buildings. It's a tint company that install it, actually. And so at the end of jobs, we will do walks and we will analyze if and where we should put it. And this coating is clear. We have to work with the fire department because if you actually need to get in with an axe, you can't even break through it. So it's that strong. I did a school in Ross County, Ohio. The entire first floor, every single window, we did it. It was a couple $100,000, but it was well worth that investment and that peace of mind. We also tend to do all entries where secretaries are sitting. Folks usually say, I'm not really comfortable here, and we end up doing it. And it's something that usually happens over the summer. It's invisible, but people who know about the operations know it's there. Is there a plan to be shared with the current students to gain peer input? And the answer is yes. I'm sorry. We will continue to do student meetings. We did one. This is going to come in as they came in. We did one before kids dismissed this spring, and I hope this fall we can get back with that same group so they can see the evolution. Personally, I love doing it just because you get some great ideas out of kids, and also they start to ask about architecture or engineering or interior design, and it's fun to talk about careers. So we will continue to involve kids. All right. Regarding security, how will ELA spaces be secured? As Greg mentioned, on this further developed plan, we have areas where the ELAs have doorways. So that community of kids, basically the 4 classrooms or 5 classrooms, can live in that area, and there can be certain isolations of those communities. It's a balancing act of creating a school that's open and flexible and can be used for 99.99% of the time of happiness and harmony and learning and excitement, but you got that 1% or the what if time that you need to be prepared for. And so, there are things we're going to look at as far as having buttons and doors will close and things can be locked down, and it's the new drill that happens in all school buildings. Do art teachers teach single grades only? It seems inefficient for them to travel from floor to floor for different grade level classes. And right now we have 3 art rooms and we have 3 art teachers, so they won't be traveling. And when there's roughly 500 kids or so per grade, that's a handful of kids to filter through making ceramic pots or whatever they're doing. So, yeah. Okay. Are there extra wide stairwells? We are at the point of laying some of those things out. In fact, today, Greg, Jenny, Jordan, myself had a meeting of looking at vertical circulation and looking at where we have stairs, where they're required for egress, and then also the experience. And one of the comments Greg made to the team, because there's a few more folks working on the job, is we need to make sure these are wide enough because these kids will be traveling up and down these stairs all day for many years. We want it to be an experience that's memorable and positive, not dungeon-like. And so we want to make sure that that's considered. There will be elevators. This job will have 1, if not 2 elevators, just because the way it's divided. A 200,000 square foot building, it'll be a full-on elevator that the district can put in. Floor cleaners and other, books and deliveries go up and down these elevators. So they're also heavy duty and can be used all year. Where is robotics going to be housed? There is a need for a permanent practice space. So we do have robotics kind of on the north end of the second floor, where the STEM labs are. We've talked a lot about if there's competitions, and that might move into another, the auxiliary gym or some other larger space where things could be set up and spectators could watch. But there is dedicated STEM rooms where robotics will be occurring. What will the auxiliary gym be used for? How necessary is it if there's going to be a field house? So the auxiliary gym is, really kind of think of it as like the 6th grade gym. A school, this building, you have different PE programs. You've got junior high kids who are, moving on and focusing on sports, and you still have the other gym, which you might still have some more elementary type activities happening. So the auxiliary gym probably won't have a wood floor. It'll probably be more of a multi-purpose rubber surface. And then the other gym is a bigger gym. It's about 10,000 square feet. That's an appropriate, fair size for a middle school or junior high. Our goal was to find seating for 1,000 people in the bleachers there. So, Mr. Spicer.
Yes, sir. Charlie, there's, to add on to that, there's no guarantee that there will be a field house with gymnasiums.
Correct.
So the board still has to make that decision whether or not it's to do all of that.
Yeah.
Or not do that portion and then do the wrestling room, the weight room, and the locker rooms and the bathrooms and the concession piece.
Yeah.
So there's still a decision that needs to be made. There's definitely no guarantee that there will be a field house with the 3
Correct. On the
gymnasiums.
diagram we had here, it was small, but it does say potential future field house in the event if that's funded in some manner. So, so right now it's 2 gyms are on this school building.
Also, just noted, there are 4 teams. There are a lot of basketball teams. There are a lot of not JV, but red and
Junior,
whites,
yeah.
A's and B's. So 4 and 4, 6. Yeah. So there's definitely a need for gym space.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. Even if this field house is constructed with those 3 gymnasiums, all gymnasium space in this district will be eaten up with practices.
Correct.
And other
Common
items.
Yep.
They just will.
Okay. All right. Hopefully this format works with typing in your phone. And so the last chance, any other comments? Positive, negative?
Charlie, I'd like to piggyback on one of those other questions about
Yeah.
updates.
Okay.
There will definitely be updates at every board meeting. Jeff will be doing an update with me, but primarily him. We'll have pictures of things that once we start to see some earth movement over there and some things come out of the ground, you'll have certainly a photographic update every month at every board meeting.
Okay. All right, we're getting thumbs up and some thank yous. So on behalf of the design team, we thank you guys for coming out and your energy and interest in the project. We love sharing what we're doing, and again, like I said, the communication we have, the feedback we get makes it a better project. So with that, thanks for coming, and we'll be sending out the next one when we get it scheduled.
Thank you.